All right, so we're small. Let me start again. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome to this training on excellent club meeting roles revisited. We're going to be taking a little bit deeper dive in this session than we did last time around. I'd like to introduce Deborah Weiner, who is our primary presenter this evening. She is a double DTM. She is a past area director, past division director, past club president. She has chartered new clubs. She is well respected within our district and a great presenter for this particular topic. Deborah, take it away.
Thank you, Sally. Welcome, Victoria and Aaron. We're happy to have you. So we have 3 agenda items this evening. Core requirements for an excellent meeting is the number 1 piece on the agenda. So we'll start there. And we talk about pre-meeting communication, which is vital to having a successful club meeting. Now, many clubs we know operate differently. Their agendas look very different from each other. So typically, I'm going to talk about how the VPE sends out emails, or we hope sends out emails a couple of days before each meeting with a copy of the agenda to each member, and ideally with speaker notes. And I'm going to have Sally talk about what speaker notes are either now or a little later, because that's something that I haven't experienced in clubs, and I don't know if you have either. But basically what I believe speaker notes are is the notes that explain each role. And so that when someone takes on a role, whether they're new or experienced, they know what they're supposed to do. And it's right there for them. And they can just follow those notes.
And Deborah, it actually goes one step further than just identifying the purpose of the role. They are literally speaker notes. So, for instance, the Table Topics Master speaker notes will say, fellow Toastmasters, we're now going to begin the table topics section of this meeting, and the purpose of this section is to teach us how to speak off the cuff. This is particularly important for meetings, blah, 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 blah. So every time that in the club of mine that does that, every time we have table topics, they don't have to do that verbatim. But if it's the first time they've ever done it, then they have an outline of exactly what they should be covering for that particular role. And we do that for all the roles that we have in our club.
Thank you, Sally. I think that is such a wonderful idea, and I would hope that each club would have access to this type of information. It would just make it so much easier, especially for new members. So something that I think that we could even have a class on at some point, how to create speaker notes and provide them to each club. Of course, we want to always remember to talk about starting and ending on time. It's very important, because once we get off of the structure, the Toastmaster structure, it's just easy to keep going down that path. And making sure that all roles are filled ahead of time. Again, we can't always do that, depending on the club, how large or small they are. But confirming at least sometimes by email, maybe by phone, or by filling the roles from the previous meeting or from a Toast host type site. Making sure that all the roles are filled and that people can be there, because people sometimes, as I've just experienced today, are sick or cannot make it to the next meeting. And then you have to, fill in those roles. Sometimes you have to do it just the morning or the evening of the meeting, right before the meeting started. So that's why it's, again, always early to be early. And then, following the Toastmaster meeting structure really is, it's such a wonderful tool that we're provided with at Toastmasters. And it really helps teach people, even in their work environment, how to run a meeting, because it teaches them that structure is essential to having a successful meeting of any kind. So then I talk about speaker notes, and we can keep talking about that. But, you know, the speaker notes encourages more participation and confidence because people know what to say. They know what the role is, and it makes it easy for them. I can remember when I first started, and for many, many years after I first started my first club, first of all, not knowing what the three letters, VPE, TLI, first of all, the three letters, what do these things all mean? No one explaining, first of all, what's a mission statement? Because I know the first club that I actually still belong to didn't recite the mission statement, but when they did, I used to always think, where do they find that? And kind of being embarrassed that I didn't know what I didn't know, but also afraid to ask. And then when I did ask, really, the people didn't have an answer to provide. Where's the mission statement? So having it on your agenda is really important, and the speaker notes that we've talked about. So then we'll go to the next slide.
You have a question, Victoria?
Yeah. Back to the role of the VPE as to be the person that sends out the agenda. Now, I've been doing that sometimes because I keep telling my team that the Toastmaster has some responsibilities in that role because she or he works with the way I just did it in the legacy program, let's say it that way, was that way. You know, the Toastmaster would work with the VPE education to make sure that his team or her team was there. And then the and same thing with the general evaluator of the meeting, working with those functionary roles. However, I mean, as you just explained it, you know, you just said it differently because, and I know with my club at Kepler, see what I'm thinking, either I'm really confused about some things and because I'm in these other specialty clubs that break all the rules.
Right. Well, one of the things in my home club that works really well, and I've started implementing it in some of the other clubs that I belong to where I can do that, is that the vice president of education sets the schedule. And they send that schedule out at least a week in advance to the Toastmaster and to the General Evaluator. And then the Toastmaster reaches out to their team. Now, their Toastmaster's direct team is the General Evaluator, the speakers, the table topics master. And these are based on roles in my home club. Some Toastmasters club have more roles than we do. And then the General Evaluator is to reach out to their team, and their team are the speech evaluators, the the odd counter if that's separate, or grammarian, odd counter, word master if it's combined, the timer. Those are the people who are part of the General Evaluator's team. And that's the pre-meeting communication that my home club does to make sure that everybody knows what they're expected to do. In some cases, they signed up. In some cases, they were voluntold. And they get back to their team leader before the meeting to confirm. Now, each evaluator then reaches out to the speaker that they're going to evaluate and talks to them about their speech. Which speech is it? Which path? Are there things that you'd like me to look at besides what's on the evaluation form? So they go over that with the speaker in advance. In that way, when it's time for the evaluation portion, then they're all set to go because they know during the speech what they should have been looking for. Now, where things vary between clubs is that oftentimes the higher level clubs, the speaker will speak, there'll be a couple of minutes of quiet time, and then the evaluator will give that evaluation right away. And some of the advanced clubs do it that way. And that's fine if that works for them. My home club doesn't do it that way. They do the speech evaluations during the general evaluation portion of the meeting. I think most clubs do it that way. Either way, you know, that's something that works for that particular club. But it's the idea that there are these two major teams for every club meeting, and the one that's in charge of each of those teams, Toastmaster and General Evaluator, reach out to their people and confirm their attendance. And that helps tremendously because then you don't come upon the starting time and people just aren't there. And then you're scrambling to fill roles. So with my home club, we may have a role that needs to be filled at the last minute, but mostly we don't because people get back to us early and then we are able to fill that before the meeting. So does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's helpful. One other question that came up for me, because I'm understanding, especially the newer club, really doesn't understand how we, in the structure, Robert's rules, right? So, you know, and my understanding from way past was that Robert's rules are actually built into the agenda per, you know, what Toastmasters shows us. And if you're following that, and so like our clubs really never had that question come up. And when I said something about something, because I can't even remember now what it was, but the thing is then I realized this club has no idea what the amendments and the Toastmasters. I'm trying agree. There's I can't remember what it's called when I
yeah, you have
Constitution and the
right. So one thing that would probably be a good idea. Now, my home club doesn't do this, but I could see where it would be a good idea is to give new members a copy of the bylaws. That's what they're called, the club bylaws that were created at the time the club formed. And it may be over the years, my club's over 30 years old. Are those bylaws still the ones that we want to be in effect? I don't know. We haven't ever really gone over them. So that's something that some of these long-term clubs, if they don't look at those from time to time, probably should look at them to see if there are things in there. But certainly new members should be given copies of those. I'm going to take that back. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Or even so this club was started a year and a half ago, you know, but none of them know what that is. So nobody really talked to them about that as they were working on
the yeah, and there's also the Toastmaster promise, and that's something that when you do an installation of new members, it's important to go over that Toastmaster promise so that they know what they're committing to, and not that they're expected at every meeting, but that they are expected regularly enough so that they're an active participant in the club.
So that brings up another issue. I did do a session one time when I did read they had not heard the TOSA, or, you know, because when you sign the agreement, it is in the agreement. But I guess because we're all online, I don't know if they're hearing that. I probably should go to the VP membership and see if when she brings them on board, is she reading that part to them? Because you know, they're not getting that part.
Yeah.
I mean, they are showing up, believe me.
These are really important things to be talking about, thinking about, but I think maybe we need to get back on track for tonight. So I will do as Deborah asked, and we'll go to the next slide.
Okay. Yeah, these are really great questions, Victoria. And You know, most of the clubs I belong to, I can't say they know anything about the things you just talked about. So things to talk about in the future. So we're roles. Here we go. We're going to start out with the Sergeant of Arms. So the Sergeant of Arms, we want to be early to the meeting. And there's so many, each club operates differently. There's Sergeant of Arms. If you have just an in-person club, their job is to get there early and to set up the room. Now, if you have a hybrid club, their role can be combined with someone else, but usually they're the tech host, and they help set up the Zoom meeting also, and they also wrap up the meeting. So it's very interesting. You know, Sergeant of Arms, a lot of people think, oh, this role, you don't have to do anything. And I've been Sergeant of Arms several times, and I didn't have to do anything. And it's not that I didn't want to. It's just I wasn't really given any responsibilities because it was a Zoom meeting, and I live very far away, and so I couldn't really do anything as far as setting up a room. And sometimes the tech host has a different officer role, but usually the Sergeant of Arms, that's it's typical of the Sergeant of Arms to be a tech host and to set up the room. Now, hopefully they're not the only one that gets there early, and if they get there early, hopefully there's a sign-in sheet for guests that they can bring out, where the guests can sign in person with their name and contact and the date they arrived, and then have name tags for the members and, guests with a Sharpie, and some lanyards so that the guests can know who they're talking to. Now, if it's a Zoom or a hybrid meeting, the guests sometimes add their name and contact in the chat. And then there's something called SurveyMonkey, which I have not used, but I was told some people use that form, that link they put in the chat. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about that. Do you know anything about that, Sally?
Well, as a matter of fact, our club uses SurveyMonkey so that all of the members in the club can give a written evaluation to the speaker. So we have the formal evaluation because we did that before COVID. We handed out the evaluation forms to everybody in the room, and one person got up and gave a verbal evaluation. Of course, they're practicing, and then everybody in the room, and almost everybody in the room did a written evaluation so that the speaker would have a broader perspective of how folks received what they were presenting. And we use SurveyMonkey to do that at our meetings. And the link is, as you say, is put into the chat. I do not personally know how to do that, but somehow as we transition from year to year, that knowledge is passed on. And so we continue to do it that way.
So SurveyMonkey in your club is used as an evaluation form.
Right.
Not a guest sign-in form.
We use chat for a guest sign-in. And then we save
Yeah.
and then we save the chat. So we ask people to put their, contact information, although really our vice president membership already has the contact information because they've been talking to them. So we just have them put that information into the chat for follow-up.
And
Okay.
for us, a little bit different for the club meeting for the speaker. So whenever the speaker have, and then after that, we have 1 minute for all the member, include the guests, to put that thing on the chat directly to the speaker. So
Right.
the feedback about what the comment. So really short for 1 minute. So whatever it work out. And then
we use 2 minutes, but yeah, chat's a good way to go.
Right. And then afterwards, so only thing is for the evaluation for the speaker, they do for the 2 to 3 minute, the evaluation for the speak.
That's the way we do it at my home club, the larger club, not the specialty. We do it the other way that you mentioned, right after the speaker for them.
Yeah, good feedback. So clubs operate so differently. So one thing that's important to note, and I've experienced this myself in several, I'm right now, I do belong to 6 clubs and I do need to leave some of them. It's just too many. But make sure that your members have access to the free TOSO site, and make sure that when you do have a meeting, the Sergeant of Arms, I put down that one of their responsibilities is to provide access to the agenda of the day. But to be honest, in each club, that could be very different. It could be the president, the Toastmaster, the VPE, because, if it's a Zoom meeting, they're going to put the agenda, they're going to send it by email. If it's an in-person meeting, they're going to print out the agenda. So that can vary.
I also searching at for my current club. So we start the meeting based on the agenda from the VPP provided at the end of the meeting for every meeting. And then the searching of arm will be announced for the start of the meeting first. And then with the club mission, and then we transfer to the president to announce any guesses. If sometimes the president want to pass back to me at the searching arm to asking the guest to introduce what they do. So the searching arm will take a role for that thing also as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're flexible. So we learn different things. We rap here, we wear so many hats at the same time.
It's true.
Yeah, and I know that I've experienced, because I belong to many different clubs. One thing that most clubs are not too great at is educating the new member on how their club operates. I mean, it could be a brand new Toastmaster member, or it could be an experienced Toastmaster who belongs to several clubs and they have no idea how your club operates. So, but the Sergeant of Arm role, usually they wrap up and reorganize the room if it's moving furniture around, or they help, with the technical stuff. It just depends on the club. But educating the members how things work in the club is really another part that I think we could have another class on even. So. Okay, so that's the Sergeant of Arms role. And then we will go on to the president role. Now, the president role, I remember being president of club and being told, hey, this is the very easiest role. You don't have to do anything. You just have to open the meeting and close the meeting. Well, that is not really true. But again, it's all about the club. So the president may open the club. Some clubs, I just was Sergeant of Arms this morning, and I opened the club with the mission statement and then handed it to the president, who handed it to the Toastmaster. But I put in here, may open the meeting. They either the president or the Sergeant of Arms usually will open the meeting, depends on the club, and then they hand it off to the Toastmaster of the day. Now, usually the president will have opening announcements, things that are kind of important, like welcome, good morning, Toastmasters, we're, to our open house today, or to our speech craft, or to our speech and evaluation contest, or whatever you're doing, or if it's just a regular club meeting. They usually open the club with a friendly announcement and invite guests to introduce themselves and to talk about maybe how they found your club and why they're there. So presidents have a little bit more responsibilities than just, saying hello and adjourning the meeting. And the president will, after they do have an opening announcement and welcome the guests, will hand off the meeting to the Toastmaster of the day, and hopefully work with the Toastmaster in, making sure the roles are filled. And the Toastmaster of the day will hand the meeting back to the president at the very end of the meeting. And at the very end of the meeting, the president will ask for feedback from the guests, what they thought of the meeting, and invite them to join or to come back and attend another meeting. And they will usually announce, and hopefully they will announce, any officer role trainings, district trainings, conventions, or annual conferences, or anything that's happening in the area, the district, and that's going on that they want to invite the members to, where they could get educated or learn some new things. Now, the president also concludes the meeting with a handoff. Sometimes in one of my clubs, they hand off before they adjourn to the vice president of education to announce and set up the next week's agenda, verbally asking people who wants to serve this or that role. And then before adjourning the meeting, the president, after the VPs filled some of the roles, they will hand it back to the president to adjourn the meeting. And the president's job, as well as the Toastmaster's job, is to make sure the meeting ends on time, begins and ends on time. So, it's so, as we're talking about our different experiences, it's so interesting yet confusing how to define certain roles because of how complex Toastmasters clubs can be. how complex and fun, and as well.
And also as well, I know that the president, he is a coach, a mentor for new member, and encourage them how to achieve for their goal and explain to the new member what they should do. And then not only on the meeting, so they can contact directly to the president for any advice, for any support. That from my home club, they will always support for that.
Sounds like, Aaron, your home club is doing a great job. Yeah. So I think we talked about more president roles here. I know I kind of combined some of them, but if there's anything else your president does. One thing and again, it sometimes mixed with the VPE, but I think the president sometimes talks about, hey, do we want to become a president distinguished club this year? And so let's all, work on completing our paths and going to officer training, or, setting goals, OTMs, DTMs, whatever, triple crowns, whatever you're working toward. So the president can announce those things or talk about them, as well as the VPE too.
So in my home club, and that is the club that has now the 31 members, but with the 3 more coming in right after this. I mean, they're already signed up. It's just not on the thing. Our president, she likes to do the VPE roles. Finally, I just said, okay, you can lead this because, I've got to find somebody to help me do just about every role I have as a VPE. So learning how to delegate. And then I realized, oh my God, I can just be in this club and play Tom Sawyer. I mean, not Tom Sawyer, but Huckleberry Finn painting the thing. And at first it was kind of hard for me to accept that, because I wanted to do some more things, or to feel more responsible, or maybe more important or something. I don't know what it is, but I decided, okay, let that go. Whatever it was not allowing me to let her jump in, because she really was eager to do that and so excited about doing it. So now we have a mentoring group, after you pass through level 1, you can become a mentor, and we're encouraging everyone to take on a mentoring role after that. And also we're encouraging other people to step up just to mentor all of those new members that are coming in, because we're moving so fast. We've got to figure out ways that we can manage everything that's coming up, because it's a challenge. So those are some of the things we've done.
Those are great, great ideas for incorporating mentorship into the very fiber of your club. That's just fabulous, and it's so, so important. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
Our club has also helped the former president
Mhm.
also do that thing also as well after the meeting of the club, and then they have another called a different agenda, you know, how to support for a new member, how to success, or maybe they do for a tumor mentoring from a different thing in real life, like for a leadership skill or something like that. Really broad presentation and asking all different members who want to join after the club meeting. Really fulfilling. I can call that word.
We also have this thing called a circle of gold, you know, and that's where after one of the meetings during the month, we do a where we have speakers speak, and usually it's 1 or 2 speakers that will speak, and there'll be several people that will be evaluating, and then we do the evaluation. And I just realized, oh my God, we can do that level 1, the last program, with that circle of gold, because they get the first evaluation and that group evaluation, and they can bring that next speech back to the club. And in that way, they've not killed, but they've done those roles pretty quickly. They can do them, and we're going to do a speechathon. That's another thing. Those are just different ways we're handling it.
Our club
Yeah, nice.
also have called the pillar of the month.
Oh, what's
So
it called?
called pillar of the month. So pillar of the month, the month, like sometimes is we base on the theme of the month, what we're talking about. Just for example, like if from January we have called the self discipline or the personal development, and then the person to do for pillar of the month, they present a presentation regarding what is self-discipline is about and how personal development grow, and that capture on kind of one parcel of the speech, like just keep speeding, like go on all the time. So we never I can call it, we never have the other speaker not join. So and we always have at least like 2 or 3 speakers, sometimes 4 or 5.
Awesome.
Right.
So do you have table topics when you have that going on, Aaron?
Yeah, we have
How long?
table topic, we have a listener, we have the inspiration code master, we have a joke master also as well. We have everything including our club.
And
How
what
long
does the listener do?
The listener will capture from the speaker some of the thing interesting on the speech and try to let the Toastmaster member or the Toastmaster member and any guesses to be pay attention on the speech. So that means that at the end of the meeting, the listener will asking kind of question. So like just for example, okay, that speech we're talking about that. Can you know what the next sentence is or what they're speaking about? The main idea of that. So that means the practice for the people learning how to listen.
Okay, what club is that does that?
Our club. And this
What's
is
the name of it?
and this is Toastmaster Club.
Oh, on Duche. Okay.
Yeah, Indice.
I'm going to come visit you.
Yeah, which one is it? What's it called?
And
In,
Duche, they meet
Indice
Saturdays.
Toastmaster Club.
It's and
We have
Duche, right?
everything. Yes.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
I'll send it to you, Deborah.
Okay.
Send
I will
it to
send
me.
you that the meeting link also as well.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send it. Yeah. Send it to us. We'll get it to you, Victoria, if he
Okay,
doesn't have
great.
your address.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Oh, and one other thing about the president role is they
Oh,
usually
sorry.
they run a once a month officer meeting.
Oh, yes. Very important.
Usually it's sometimes after the meeting, or sometimes it has to be a different day or evening or yeah. So they usually have then they have a secretary write up the notes from that meeting. So and file them.
And
So
that's
that's
really important. Yeah, those officer or executive club meetings are so important for planning and giving that club a sense of structure and control. So it's very important. All right,
Yeah.
thanks for including that, Deborah.
Okay, then we move on to filling roles. One of the most difficult things, of course, as we know, is to fill the roles for the next meeting. And they should be filled before the meeting. And most clubs have a free toast site or some other site like it, but that's the most common one. And they should be encouraged to make sure they go on and sign up for roles, not only for the next week, but they should have access to be able to fill roles. I mean, I have one club, I can fill them roles up for 6 months. So it's really good because my calendar fills up quickly and that way I can plan ahead. And that's easier, makes it much easier for who's ever responsible for making sure that the agenda is filled. And if it's not sometimes, again, each club varies. Sometimes there's small clubs where people have to fill multiple roles. I mean, the president can sometimes be the VPE, and sometimes, they don't even have a secretary, or they have multiple roles being filled. But if it's a larger, more successful club, the filling of the roles is done by the vice president of education. And they can do that, again, by asking at the end of the meeting who would like to sign up for the next week. But also they should encourage people to go on to the free TOSO site and to not just fill roles for the next meeting, but maybe even for beyond that time period.
Yeah, to the point of the free toast host, there are other softwares that some clubs use for signing up. The point here is to have one, to have something that people can go to and sign up in advance so that they can also plan their schedules. It's also important for the club members to know that as part of the Toastmaster promise to participate in the club, they are basically giving permission to the vice president of education to put their names on the schedule. Now, in my home club, we do that for all the jobs except speaker roles. One of my other clubs does it for all positions. And I will tell you that because they include speaker roles in that, and because I feel that sense of responsibility, when I see my name come up on a speaker role, guess what? I give a speech. I've gotten through so many more levels because they put my name on as a speaker well in advance. You do this, you should be doing this like a month in advance, and then notifying people that you've done it and let them know. You send that schedule out way in advance. So some people may balk at that a little bit, but if that becomes part of your culture, it actually ended up helping me. I talked to the VPE about it and I said, I wasn't okay with you putting my name down as with speaker, but what I've learned is because I respect your need to do that, and because I take on that role, I am moving ahead in my goals much quicker than I would have otherwise. So thank you. That's what I said to that person. I said, thank you for doing that. So that's something to think about if you're having problems with roles, assign them in advance, a month in advance. All right. So that you are, anyway, I digress, but it's an important point that Deborah's making about having something like a free Toast host available to your members to sign up for roles. And if they know their names are going to be put down, guess what? They're going to put their own names down so that they take control of their own experience.
So I just one little thing here is like for months I was encouraging everybody to go sign up and it just like they didn't seem to be getting it. Well, that was all the old members. Well, this influx of new members started coming up and they heard me. They went out and signed up and were signing up far in advance, you know, and but all of a sudden the president got really unglued about it because they were taking up all the roles and there was no all these new people are coming in. When are they going to get to speak? When are the older people going to be able to sign up? I mean, it just became, and that was probably during the period I was thinking of calling you guys. I got really flustered with it because like I says they're doing exactly what I asked them to do. You guys weren't, you know.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
that was all the leadership team. They weren't doing it because they just didn't. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so is it starting to work itself out for you?
Well, now it's working.
You know, that's why you have speakathons, you know, for larger clubs. You can have speakathons.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to have speakathons. I'm going to talk to another lady that has larger numbers than her club on Sunday. And I think one of the things she had suggested to me is we could actually do table topics in a partition. We could go into breakout rooms, have a group work table to do to, you know, in the same meeting. And that would be one solution also. I haven't talked to the team about it yet, but I like that idea. And, but yeah, to me, it was kind of unsettling because I was so proud of people doing it, you know, going out and signing up. And the president got so upset. So she wants to limit how far out people can sign up. That's her solution.
Yeah, and one thing that you can do, I'm sorry to interrupt. One thing that you can do in terms of the breakout rooms, if you need to make sure, I guess this is what I'm trying to say. You need to make sure that there are enough people in each breakout room that there is truly an audience for the speaker. So if you have, let's say you have like 8 speakers for your meeting, and that's 2 breakout rooms, or maybe 6 speakers, and you have 3 speakers in each breakout room, you need to have enough people in that room listening so that they feel like they have an audience, right?
So you're talking about the speechathon. I was just talking about table topics.
Oh, just for the table topic session to make that's good to make. Yes, to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak during table topics. Good point. Yeah. I've seen both of those things happen. My concern is that there's an audience. There needs to be enough people in each breakout room to provide an audience. So the people, because in Toastmasters, we're afraid of speaking in front of a bunch of people, but like right here, we've got 4 people, easy peasy, right? No problem. If we had 100 people, even though it's virtual, then maybe the stress level goes up a little bit. So make sure that there's enough people in each room to do that.
Okay.
Victoria, that's really good information because I've belonged again to a club in the past, very large club. And they used to use Easy Speak, which was so difficult to use. Thankfully they dropped it. And it was the same people that would speak every week, and they were basically just assigned. And but they did have a lot of speakathons, and they would put us into breakout rooms, and there'd be 1 speaker, 1 evaluator, and 1 timer. And it did give everyone, you know, at least a chance to speak or do different roles, but that was my
Yeah.
experience with speakathons. Haven't had any other club I belong to do speakathons.
Yeah, see, and I don't support that
Okay.
limited number of people in the room, because then it's like you're just talking to another person.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
It was.
I don't support that. Even if you're doing a speakathon, a speakathon is a meeting where you only have speakers and evaluators, and you probably run it for at least an hour and a half, and that's your speakathon. But you have everybody in the room. Now, if you have 40 members and all 40 are there, then you can do breakout rooms of 20 people in each room, so that there's an audience. There needs to be an audience for them. And you should have, in contests, they often have you turn your camera off. See, I don't think that's helpful either. I think for speakers, the cameras need to all be on, and you should encourage people to have their faces there so that the speaker can see the reactions of the people that they're speaking to. And that's part of what they need to learn to do, is how to read the audience. And to read the audience, you have to have an audience. So that's my 2 cents worth on that. I appreciate you sharing it, Deborah, because people do different things. But in this case, I needed to step in and say,
Yep.
I'd rather not see it done that way.
I agree with Sally. Yes, we need the audience. If the audience don't see you, you don't know who you're speaking to. You be speak to
That's
the
right.
wall.
That's right.
It's true.
I agree.
It was not quite a pleasant experience. The club, it was, leaders worldwide. They're very large. So, then there's another club I belong to. What they do is they assign you roles. And, I initially signed up with smaller clubs that I was an area director and division director for, so that I could get a chance to get my DTM and completed and speak a lot. But then it turned out when they started assigning roles, I was only going to speak twice a year. And I don't know how that's possible with a club of only, 9 members, but so I don't think.
So the thing about assigning roles is you do that after people have had a chance to sign themselves up for things. Yeah.
For our
Anyway, this is wonderful, but I feel like I need to push the button one more time. Are we ready to move on to the next slide?
Yeah, and we're talking about different ways to fill roles. So I think this has been valuable. And, assigning roles, speakathons, easy speak. Just make sure people have access to free Toast. And believe me, I belong to 3 clubs that I don't have access. Okay, Toastmaster. The Toastmaster role is, of course, very important. And the pre-meeting organization is, again, usually coordinating with the VPE to ensure that the roles are filled and the agenda is complete. And then the Toastmaster may open the meeting. Some clubs have the Toastmaster open the meeting. However, the key role for the Toastmaster is to run the meeting. And they manage the meeting. And they set the tone for the meeting. So they're friendly and welcoming, upbeat voice and tone, and making it positive energy and making sure that everybody has fun and everyone's involved. That's the role of the Toastmaster. And there's meeting handoffs. Usually the Toastmaster during the meeting will hand off the roles, like, to the speaker, to the evaluators, table topics master, and to the general evaluator to usually introduce their team. Now, the more about the Toastmaster. In most meetings, they hand the meeting over, sometimes at the beginning of the meeting, to introduce the general evaluator. They'll hand over the meeting to the general evaluator to introduce their evaluation team, which consists of a timer, sometimes a ballot counter if they vote, and to their evaluation team. So that's, what they'll do. And then there's some
that structure. Yeah, I just wanted to add that this is an example of if you have a meeting that is only an hour, or in
Yeah.
the case of my home club, our meetings are 50 minutes.
Mm.
50 minutes. During that time, we have 2 to 3 speakers, and we have a full session of table topics and a full evaluation, or full general evaluation portion. And we do that because we've streamlined a few things. So for instance, at the beginning of the meeting, our Toastmaster introduces the evaluation team, because that's one way to shorten it a little bit. In our meeting, our Sergeant-at-Arms does not open the meeting. I kind of like it when they do, but in our meeting, the president opens the meeting and turns it to the Toastmaster, who introduces the evaluation team and then introduces the speakers. Some clubs call on the evaluator of the speaker to present the purpose of the speech. Now, because our meeting is so short, our Toastmaster does that as part of their introduction of the speaker. They give what the path is, what the level is, what the project is, and then a specialized introduction of the individual and what they are trying to do, or background for the speech, whatever it may be. That's to shorten it. So I'm just sharing that not as a right way. It's not a right way. It's a way that we manage a 50-minute meeting. Other clubs that meet for an hour or an hour and a half, they have time for a humorist. They have time for a thought of the day. They have time for an extra segment, like TLC, Toastmaster Leadership Club, now has a leadership moment at every meeting that's like anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes at the beginning of their meeting. Well, they meet for an hour and a half. They have time to do that. So it's really nice to adjust your meeting based on the length of time, and to schedule it out so you start on time and end on time. And we do an amazing job for a 50-minute meeting of getting all of those items done on time. So I just wanted to share that as being, another approach to a meeting structure. There are lots and they all can work.
Yeah, it's amazing. 50 minutes, Sally. That's just amazing.
It is.
Someday I'll have to go observe at your meeting so I can learn a few things.
And we have fun. We have fun. It's a relaxed, fun atmosphere, but we have a schedule. Yeah,
So,
it's good. Back to
I
you.
have
Sorry.
a
You
question.
follow it. And Victoria.
Yeah. Can I what's the name of your club? I want to go out and get a copy of your.
Lakeside Speakeasy is the name of our club. And if you'd like to visit sometime, shoot me an email and I'll send you the meeting link.
Okay, I will do that. And the other question I have is, do you do introductions of everyone in the meeting?
Yes.
Also? You have
Yes,
time?
we call on guests at the beginning of the meeting and introduce them. We have full introductions of each role player so
Okay.
that everyone knows. Each role player describes what their role is and why they do it. So all of those components are included in our meeting. And we have speaker notes so that each role taker knows what to say. They don't have to kind of flummox around it and take up more time trying to figure out what to say.
Thank you.
Yeah. And one of the things that we added in our meeting for the General Evaluator was to remind people that the speech evaluators, the evaluators, we are practicing. If I'm one of those people, we are practicing just like everybody else. So if you have an evaluator that gives you feedback that you're not so sure you agree with, or you're not so sure is helpful, that's for you to evaluate and decide if that's something that you want to incorporate or not. So that's something that we add as part of our introduction.
That's good. That's really good. So I've seen clubs a few times have brand new members give evaluations, and they were not very nice, but they didn't understand they didn't understand how to do an evaluation.
Right.
Okay. So we're talking about the Toastmaster role, and they introduce the speakers, and sometimes they give a bio. of the speaker, but they usually they give the speech title, the speech length, and the goal of the speech. So they announce that, and then they introduce the table topics master, who takes it from there. And at the end of the meeting, they will return the meeting to the president to adjourn the meeting and end on time. Now, let's see, we're on to our table topics role. So we're on to slide 9 here. And talk about table topics, one of my favorite roles. They explain the purpose of the table topics role. I mean, the table topics, they explain it. And the purpose of it is to improve impromptu speaking. And the time is 1 to 2 minutes. So it's kind of important for them to mention that, especially for new members and guests. Now, before a table topics master will assign or ask someone a question, it's important that they ask guests if they would like to participate first. And because there are some guests that don't feel comfortable, so you don't want to call on a guest, but when they are calling on members, it's important that they don't call on a guest first. Usually, they call on a member first, and 1 or 2 people, and then call on the guest. And make sure that it's an easy question or topic. So to make it, again, fun, it's just really just an opportunity for the guests to express themselves and to see what it's like to be in a safe and supportive environment and to have some fun with what they're saying.
And one of the things that I recommend is that you give the topic before you announce who you're calling on, so that everybody in the room is thinking about that topic and how they might answer it. And then you call on somebody. I also recommend that you call on somebody and not ask for volunteers, because the idea of table topics is to be able to respond when you're caught off guard. If you're in a meeting and the boss calls on you for a response, you don't get to volunteer, right? You don't get to say, I mean, sometimes you can speak up because you want to say something, but oftentimes the boss wants you to say something, they call on you. So this practice is important, that people be called off guard to respond.
And one thing about table topics, for years, again, staying in the same club, I didn't understand when I was assigned that role that you usually ask each member a different question, because I would ask the same question to everyone, and I didn't understand that it's better to mix it up. So you're mentioning that it's better to talk about a question and then let people see how they would respond. So there's way different theories to that. Are you saying that it's ask the same question to everyone? Is that what you're saying? No, just give people.
I mean, you can do that as being a different style. I wouldn't do that every time. But what I'm saying is that you have a variety of questions, you ask the question, and then you select the person to respond. That way everybody in the room thinks about it. Aaron?
Yeah, in our club, we have the table topic, and then most of the table topic master, they prepare the question first. And then each question, they will pop it up and select the member or the guest to be answer that question. And sometimes have different question, not similar all the time. And then sometimes we use for a graphic and present something, whatever you want to thinking of. We use this way for the table topic master. It just asking the people be practice. Like sometimes you meet anyone on the street, at the elevator, or anywhere. Only thing you have to be practice imprompt your speech. Only 1 to 2 minutes. That's it. That's how you can think and thought, in quickly, and then you can imprompt your speech when you deliver your speech at that time with the table topic.
It's true. How many times have you thought about an answer after you already spoke?
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
they
yeah.
yeah, most of the time we give them a 30 second for thinking first, really quick 30 second, and then you can get in there. If you can able to answer right away, it is fine. But for us, we also guide them with the guideline that on the table topic, when you try to answer the question, you have to get answer with the opening, a body, and the conclusion, how to wrap the thing up to make sure you improve your speech, you act professionally, like in the speech also as well. In short,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Aaron. Is that, well, you know what? That's something to step up to. I really haven't thought about that. Most of our clubs do not, work that way with table topics. So thank you, Aaron. That's a whole new way to look at things. And then, of course, the table topics master will hand the control back to the Toastmaster at the end of their role. And then we move on to the General Evaluator. Now they, a lot of times they'll call on their team for their reports after the speaker has spoken, and again, clubs mix it up, but they also remind everyone that the evaluators are practicing too. So just remember when they give their evaluations for the speakers, no one's perfect. We're here to learn and practice. So they'll call on their team, and that includes the speech evaluators, the timer, who mentions, well, sometimes they mention the topic of each individual's questions. I haven't seen that happen all the time, but hopefully it does when they give their timer's report. And then the grammarian, word master, off counter sometimes is all one role. To be honest, I feel it's easier if it is. When you mix it up, it just takes a lot longer. I've been in one club where it's just an hour and takes up about 15 minutes because there's 3 people filling a role. So I would suggest that you make it all one role, but that's just my opinion.
What was that again? Grammarian, wordmaster, and Oz and or filler.
Yeah, they call it different names. You could be called a grammarian, a wordmaster, an odd counter, and sometimes they're all the same thing, but they're sometimes really separated, and people make it individualized.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes you have 3 different people. In my club, it's 1 person, but we call it that big long name, grammarian, wordmaster, off counter.
We break it out for individual, like grammarian, timer, and then the grammarian, and also as well they give for the word of the day, and then the out counter. They try to cast the speaker and they include with the table topic whoever joy for their speech, just give the report, and then they help them that we not point out with that person the error for that they have been make a mistake. We say we encourage you to get practice more, try to eliminate up the air, not use a lot of fewer words. So that means we cannot talk like whenever you speak with your boss. That informs us to be practiced. That's all.
Yes. Good points.
Yeah, it would be really helpful for a person in that role to, encourage a person to breathe and think about really pausing and why they're and ahhing and, winning the counter report of the day. And of course, the general evaluator will give a report on how the meeting ran as a whole. That is one of their roles. And then we will open our meeting up to our feedback session.
And we've been doing this throughout. Something that I just thought of that I have experienced recently is that some clubs, every time somebody uses the word of the day, they do this.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah, every time they use the word of the day. So it's a positive thing, as opposed to sometimes some clubs anyone says ah or they'll ring a bell or something. Nah, I'm not so sure about that. But this for the word of the day, I kind of like it. Yeah,
I like it
kind
too.
of like it.
Jazzy.
Too.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Recognize that you know what the word you use on that day, right? That means you can
Mhm.
learn new word as well. That's very good. So
Yes.
our club didn't use that kind of handling. Yeah, I will asking them to do that. So that means recognize that, okay, that person know to use that. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sometimes I feel like, do we really need to count each one? Like sometimes there's 26, 42, it's like, is that really helpful? Or do you just say you were the winner of the day, or you could really improve on this? Or there's
Well,
different ways.
for the use of the word of the day, we count. For ahs and ums, the literal ahs and ums, we stop at 10. And if they have 10 or more, we just say, this is an area you might think about working on are those ahs, and you might think about using pauses. It's okay to pause. There's some quiet time in the middle of your speech is okay. And that's difficult because it's very uncomfortable to have silence when you're making a presentation.
That's true.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
We did
Okay.
that also as well. We encourage the people to do that thing
Mhm.
exactly that you just said.
Yeah.
So we were really lucky tonight to be able to do this kind of sharing. This has been, I think, really
I think this is
enlightening.
one of the best sessions. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I think so. Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to stop if I can find it, I'm going to stop the recording.